Welcome back, everybody, to the energy tips for week 8. That is the 16th till the 23rd of February 2020. I apologize for the late post. The recording interfered with my traveling. So here you go. These energy tips are going to be a little more comprehensive. There is a lot going on here in this week to come. One that I would probably call something like a difficult week for us. So lean back, don't hold your breath. All right, let's look into what makes this week difficult from my perspective. There is a very strong influx of energies here this week, energies that produce a lot of inner confliction and therefore trigger or can trigger a lot of our unresolved stuff, as you know. So when it comes to you discovering some of these inner conflicts and feeling how it can get a grip over you, how it can influence your physical, how it can influence your emotions, how it influences the way you think, the way you make decisions, how you interact with others, I want to just send up front here that most of this in this week will not be all based on your own stuff. It will show you stuff, and this is where all the truth training that you've been doing all these years will pay off. All right, so it will show you stuff that you can recognize, but I want you to understand that this is a collective influx right now. Okay, so the title of these energy tips here today, Chaos as Planned, hints at this a little bit. What do I mean when I say chaos as planned? There is an overlay, you can call this manipulation, that works really, really well with our ego mind. And that is that if we go into the worst case scenario, if we basically expect things to be chaotic and frightening and uncertain, we become more controlled, or so we think we do. So we have this feeling that we expected the worst case, and therefore it calms our ego. And here I want to address some of the things that you can do to keep yourself in truth and to prevent this critical inner voice, this mentalism, to steer you into an illusion of safety. Okay, so chaos as planned is a statement that comes from the ego that basically tells you that you've accepted chaos as a norm, you've accepted it as okay because you've expected it. So let's look into how this will play out here in our collective, most likely, and what we can do to counteract this. The main energy tip that I can give you for this week overall is to understand that the breath of life, what makes you alive, what expresses your soul and your organic life force, is what is being addressed here, is what's being hijacked, so to speak. And if you do not have the tools or do not know how to use the tools correctly, how to channel your breath of life, all right, then you are more likely to fall for these ever increasing insanities of things that we observe here in the collective. What are those? Okay, so there's a lot of transition, there's a lot of breaking through some of the old paradigms of safety going on right now, be it transhumanism, be it political upheavals, be it social unrest, be it viruses and so forth. So all this is happening and we cannot change this. But it's also manipulating us into a place where we begin to feel like we cannot choose anything anymore. We cannot really contribute in any way to a change for ourselves and the collective, and therefore steering us into a powerlessness. And the function of our ego mind here in all this, all right, and why we can be so susceptible to manipulation is that if it's been projected onto us over and over and over again that we cannot make a change, and that this all, is in the hands of others, and that it's going to be chaotic and it's going to be bad anyway. All right, then our brain, so to speak, will be seduced into accepting this as norm and no longer even trying to make a change. So it's this deception into passivity, into externalization, into this externalized place where we basically just sort of hunker down and distract ourselves with all kinds of, either numbing or dramas, depending on our propensities here. So this is where our responsibility as a living soul, as an incarnated soul here in 3D comes in. We have to recognize that we have powers. We have the power to change things within ourselves and around us. And this has a lot to do with our ability to channel our personal life energy. And what this means is that we have to develop a stance of neutrality here. So we can't really fall for all the things that we are being bombarded with, because they will ultimately lead to us accepting chaos as planned. So we need to develop disciplines here that help us on an emotional and on a physical and also on a mental level to not fall for these outer influences that are not very conducive for our life force. The trick here is to understand that neutrality allows us to see things the way they are. And this then opens the gateway to recognizing our most important power, and that is truth. And truth is something that our ego cannot discern. This has to come from, our heart. You guys all know this. This is not the physical heart, but it is actually the field that we can discover when we go within, when we breathe into the heart, when we learn how to calm our mind, how to calm our emotion, how to go into this neutral place. We recognize that there is a part in us that is actually able to discern truth. And in this week, you really, really need this tool. You need the tool to discern truth for yourself, because the way this manipulation is being applied is that there is always a little kernel of truth in some of this propaganda. But the function of your ego mind, all right, that is afraid of missing out, that is afraid of the unknown, turns this into an inner propaganda. It turns this into these inner tapes, okay, that keep sort of replaying the outer message. And what I want you to pay attention to in this week is to really stay in your own power of thinking for yourself, of feeling for yourself, and especially your physical body, to actually sense your own physical body. And remember that your decision making, okay, the choices that you make every day, every moment, that these have to come from within this truth place. Thinking with the heart is the key word here for those of you who are actively training with us in transmissions, or the mental heart fusion, to really know how to let go of the critical inner mind. And we had a wonderful workshop this Saturday here, a self-mastery class on how to counteract this. So there I've introduced techniques to you, how you can actually train to test this inner voice, all right, whatever it is that your mentalism projects into your reality, how to test this on truth. And you'll see the slide here on your screen. The first thing is that you need to familiarize yourself with these belief sets, okay, with these things that are recorded, be it things that you actually consciously believe in or that have just been projected onto you, but that are playing like a tape. So you have to write this down and actually listen to it, all right, and then you have to differentiate. You have to learn, whether this is actually yours and that you truly believe in, or that you actually stand for, or whether this is just something that has been fed into you over and over again. here is also where you need to find out if this is actually even something that you want to think, that you want to say, that you want to believe in. Because a lot of times when we actually listen to our inner negativity, to our critical inner voice, we find out that it is extremely degrading and extremely minimizing to our sense of self. And if somebody would talk to us in this way, we would never really accept that. We would talk back, and that's then, the next step here. The situate and the identify step helps you to first and foremost recognize where this is even coming from. How have I even over time accepted those kind of things as my own thoughts, and have I been identifying with some of these things that I quite honestly don't even stand for. All right, and here is where we find out, that a lot of things come from our upbringing and things that we've been conditioned with. So this is a very complex process of situating and contextualizing where these critical inner thoughts, where they come from. The next step then is to actually engage with it and start talking back. And this is a process that happens within yourself. This requires reflection and introspection. So you're going to have to really practice to question that voice and say, who says this is true? Compared to whom? Compared to what? How do I know this is true? To really challenge that voice in you that keeps on replaying the tape that you weren't even involved in, that may have not even been part of your own truth. And then the last part here is the actual training of talking back and confronting all of this. And we do this in our practical lives on a day-to-day basis. This is the main energy tip here for this next week, to really go into this constantly working with your truth and speaking truth, admitting truth to yourself, admitting truth to others, and deny any kind of illusion. This can express in words that you use that express lack, for instance, or that express victimhood, or that express powerlessness. All right, you got to catch those things every moment. I know what this sounds like. It makes you feel self-conscious maybe, but you need to understand that this kind of training is what allows you to actually go into this place of neutrality where you become able to discern truth. Without this, your decision making is not your own, guys. And so a lot of you guys are currently feeling this back and forth, like in and out, and constantly being pulled back into things that you've thought you've already gone through many, many times. And the reason for that is that you haven't quite learned yet how to prioritize your life force, okay? How to stay focused enough to not get pulled into side battles, into things that have no meaning for you. So this feeling that you cannot really contribute to change in a meaningful way comes from this constantly being pulled into meaningless things. All right, so this requires us to form a discipline for our own life force sake, but especially for our truth's sake. Okay, to really stand within our truth. And for that, we need to practice the two self-talk, this truth talk with ourselves. Last week, I recommended you have this truth talk with your partner or with the people in your life that matter to you. Well, from here on, I want you to have this kind of truth talk with yourself. All right? And this includes, of course, your critical inner voice, but that's a separate part, because those are the pre-recorded tapes. In order to change this recording of these tapes that are playing, you need to go into the habit of really talking truth with yourself. And this includes things such as, paying attention to the things that rub you the wrong way, or paying attention to the things that you still externalize, or paying attention to the things that see as the problem of others, okay, and waiting for something to happen, okay, this the passivity that keeps you in this place, all right? But of course, mainly, the self-consciousness and not truly trusting in yourself and your inner voice. Those are the things that you need to practice. So without a discipline, without, you knowing when your mind is speaking truth, all right, and without this inner confrontation, you keep getting pulled into your mind. And once you're pulled into your mind, guys, then you are asleep. Then you're no longer in the present moment, and you lose the power to change. And so when it comes to, like going through this week here, besides this truth training with yourself, really pay attention to these side battles that you constantly get pulled into, and ask yourself if they are really meaningful for you, if they really matter, if they really deserve, this priority that they appear to be important to you, but at the end of the day, they're not. Also try to filter out the inevitable, the things that you have to do no matter what, like to not accept, distraction, over things that need to be done, that will pull you back into your mentalism later, right? A lot of the difficulty here for this week is coming from the outside. So I want you to understand that the collective aspect of this week here, with all its mutations, really. So we talked about quantum leap and all this, right? All this is going on, but right now we're experiencing this as a mutation. Okay, so there's a collective craziness that is playing out, mostly fear-based. Okay, and I'm expecting this to affect the financial markets, the way our economy is run. Okay, and there'll be a lot of of that kind of talk, okay, of volatility and so forth, to deceive the ego into expecting all of this as a norm. Okay, this is where the chaos as planned title comes from. But the truth is that what is collectively here projected onto us is us being pulled into the darkest part of our own psyche, all right, by making others responsible, by hating on certain leaders or certain institutions or certain industries, and basically externalizing our shadow towards them or towards people whom we've identified in our lives, who are creating the chaos. So this chaotic projection makes you believe you have no choice. Always remember this, okay? So your power here is staying in your truth. Chakra wise, why this is so difficult is because of two major impacts here in this next week, and that is first this barrier between our third and fourth chakra, between our ego self and our heart self, if you will, our true self. That is a collective task right now, is strongly triggered. So we get strongly getting pulled into our ego self overall. All right, and we have to really learn how to counteract this with, some of the techniques that I am going to suggest here for you. But the combination here is with an extremely active third eye, sixth chakra, and an extremely active seventh chakra that is receiving massive downloads, massive information coming in from the divine Wi-Fi, if you will. And that is linked to our sense of self, that is linked to our first chakra, our sort of right to be here, and recognizing ourselves as part of the whole. Okay, so it attacks that. So you need to be careful here with what you buy into. Okay, and physically, the best tip that I can give you here for this next week is really to look into your lifestyle habits. Okay, most of us are too busy to even feel that we are here. We're too busy to even do, sort of basic things that help us to channel our life force, such as walking or cycling or stretching or swimming. All right, we fall for this constant multitasking, through technology or through job or through family, this robotic and actually, if you really think about it from a soul self's perspective, it's a sedentary lifestyle. All right, we're just really trying to make it. We're just trying to survive, and that is then what leads to us not really being able to be aware of the present moment anymore. So for this week, besides, some of you still dealing with the seasonal respiratory stuff, I really want you to focus on breath work. All right, the I am breathing, as you know, is a very effective way to connect and to integrate and to clear energies, but also yogic breath work, and really just feeling into, how the breath is part of this life force giving flow in you. Okay, so to just conscious breathing can really help here already. But obviously, getting out of this adrenaline and cortisol driven robotic mode is ultimately what you need for this neutrality on an emotional and mental level. So lifestyle changes, new disciplines, adding certain things to your life, such as a walking meditation every day, just 10 minutes really focusing on your body, feeling into your body, releasing energies and so forth can help here. Emotionally, in order to get to this place where you are able to really deal with your emotions without fear, without stress, without hyper reactivity, so to speak, it's really important to build a stronger emotional vocabulary, to really describe to yourself how you're feeling. You can combine this with the breath work, you can breathe in, take a moment to be in the present moment, and then ask yourself, how am I truly feeling right now? What do I truly need? Remember, there are no positive or negative emotions. There only are emotions. And when we latch on to our emotions, which happens through the brain, so the brain tells us what this emotion is, and then it goes into some kind of reactivity with it. Oh no, I don't want to feel pain, or oh no, I don't want to feel sad, I want to be happy. So sad is negative. That is what you're truly up against. So your emotional vocabulary, emotional literacy helps you to qualify this a little better, because you don't need to be afraid of, say, like an onset of heaviness or sadness. It doesn't mean that you are depressed. All it means is that your emotions are going a little low. What you really need to work against is your brain interpreting this as a certain condition, such as depression or anxiety. All right, so you need to catch the thought that judges the emotion. And here is where it's really important to do this focus training that I suggested earlier, where you really discern what you allow in. Okay, so part of this manipulation, this collective gaslighting that I've previously mentioned, is information overload. And so to see through, and pinpoint truth, you got to be able to filter and prioritize correctly. All right, and so your body, your mind, and your emotions, they form, your ego self. All right, and so you have to learn how they are all connected with another, and use some of the physical disciplines to catch, your mentalism, your ego mind going rogue, and use your emotional literacy to explain it to your brain, if you will, to your ego mind. Otherwise, this getting pulled into your mind leads to you just listening to these pre-recorded tapes in your head. So it's the truth talk with yourself that helps to disrupt that, and ultimately then restore your choices and the decisions that you can actually make. So again, here as well, the focus and not getting distracted into these pre-recorded inner tapes, right? And anything that suggests to you that you're not good enough or that you're not perfect enough is a real strong indication that you are being pulled into your mind. And when you get pulled into your mind, just like when you get pulled into your emotion or pulled into your physical stress, you are asleep. You are no longer, in possession of the two biggest powers that you have, which is your life force and your truth. All right. Now, socially, in your relationships, this can also be a tricky week because there's a constant push and pull, a constant back and forth, and the ego immediately goes into this exit strategy. Like, oh, then I throw the towel, or then I get divorced, or then I just replace things. Okay, if this doesn't work, then I just need to get more of the other, or immediately sort of going into this all or nothing type of attitude, and understand that this is part of your inner stress and your inner propaganda. Okay, so try to really stay neutral here, respect others in what they're bringing to the table, even if you disagree with it or if you think it's insufficient. That's all right. Don't get pulled into their stuff. See the truth in others and understand that the best way for you to stand up for your goals, for who you truly are, for what your truth is in interaction, is in actual interaction, because there, this learning and growing and neuroplasticity, that is needed for you being able to see new things and see that you have different choices in conjunction with others becomes visible. So it's in the feedback and in the exchange with others. I just want to really point this out here, because in times like this, we tend to sort of hunker down and cave in and get stuck in our mind and all these expectations, assumptions, and things that haven't even happened yet, brain farts. So go into this interaction, into this hopefully truthful interaction with others, because that can literally clarify, the mental overload and the emotional overload, and also often the physical tension that comes with this. Spiritually, this is a very, very cool time for those of us who have been around the spiritual corner for a long time, and who've already been able to see through some of the untruths of modern spirituality. It is our ability to realign to the present moment awareness that can show us, how much we've already aligned to our inner higher power. But even if we have this understanding, the spiritual understanding that doesn't have to be religious or dogmatic in any way, we still need to look at the truth of how our spirituality expresses, and how we actually align to our inner higher power. Is there still a part of our ego that thinks it is doing things, or is our life view really based on our higher power working through us? All right, so here's where even some of you can get pulled into distress and lack of faith with yourself and your higher power, because at times of ego stress, all right, as I've explained earlier, there comes this externalization again. So the ego really likes to take credits for all the things that are cool, but it immediately externalizes all the things that are not cool. And here is where you can find out, what your relationship with your higher power truly is and how it expresses. Can you let go of all the cool stuff too? Can you accept that, the way you express your own truth and your alignment to the divine Wi-Fi, that this is actually following something much greater than you. This is the influx of divine order here in this week. So as difficult as it may be from an ego's perspective, there's also a lot of divine power that is coming in here through all of this. So I've just really pointed out the negative aspects of this, and not to buy into the chaos as planned paradigm, and to recognize that the true power is in that higher power in you. All right, and to focus on the expression of that relationship more than getting sidetracked through your ego battles. Now, energetically, this can be a little tricky for some of you, but you've been around long enough maybe to be able to pinpoint this. There's a strong etheric impulse right now. There's lots of downloads, lots of info, lots of divine Wi-Fi info coming in, and a lot of people get pulled into the astral through this, because it's like with the internet, it's divine, it's overload, information overload. So it can lead to you getting distracted into untruths and seeing things that scare you, or seeing things that you mystify, or that pull you into some occult dogmas. Okay, so you got to stay on your toes here and recognize the power of your own etheric. So some of you heart warriors, I already pointed you at really working with your own etheric self in these times where it's really easy to see yourself etherically, and to truth test your own etheric self. If you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, then don't worry. We have these energy awareness trainings here every month that can help you to tune into this and to train this with yourself. All right, so pay attention to those intensives once a month if you want to learn more about your etheric and how to actually identify and work with etheric energy. One thing I want to point out, this links back to the physical here, is the role of sleep for etheric clearing. Okay, so don't underestimate the role of sleep. This idea that you can meditate everything away is a very cool ego deception. That is not the case. If you, like myself, I work etheric energies every day. Okay, so I do operate on this level a lot, but it does not replace the clearing and reorganization function of sleep. It is literally, like a self-clearing process that goes on when you sleep. How much sleep you need depends on how well your etheric is trained, but you do need anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of rest of your physical and your ego awareness, your ego mind shutdown, for your etheric to recover. So in this week here, if you feel a more intense need to sleep, then go with it. Allow your etheric to stretch, to expand, and to clear while you're sleeping, and see it as such. Make this a conscious choice, even if it's just say a nap that you're taking. So it's like every time your ego mind shuts down, your etheric can operate better. Right. I hope this helps you guys to navigate through this week. Please comment. Please use the comment here on Patreon to post some of your experiences, or go to the Skype thread that we have for current energies discussion. Thank you for supporting transCODES. Thank you for being a heart warrior. And I just want to let you know that we have 2 heart warrior spots left right now. So if you're considering the heart warrior program, where you basically train with us on an ongoing level here, at least in the boot camp for 3 months, then we are taking applicants right now. Okay, guys, have a wonderful week regardless. Okay, it's wonderful truth training for all of us. Love you. See you next week. Bye-bye.